For 10 long years, there was silence. No one heard anything from the human warship called Erebus. It had disappeared during a deadly mission against a giant enemy known only as Oblivor. The Galactic Council believed it was destroyed, lost forever. In deep space, people moved on, and the memory of Erebus became just another sad story. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, a strange signal began to appear. It was weak at first, but it grew stronger every hour. It was not from any known race, not even from the Council's advanced systems. But someone recognized it. It was old Earth code, a message from humans, on a small station near the edge of the galaxy. A technician named Varek looked at his screen in shock. The signal repeated again and again, cold and calm. "This is the Erebus," it said. "We are not dead. We are changed." The technician called his commander, and soon every ship and station near the signal was on high alert. The unknown vessel was coming closer. It had no known ID, no standard design, no communication, except that one chilling message. As the object entered visual range, scanners struggled to define it. The ship was massive, larger than any human or council ship. On record, its surface looked alive, like it was breathing. Dark metal twisted with glowing red veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. The ship moved without sound, without engines that could be tracked. It simply glided forward through space like a ghost. Inside the Council's high command chamber, panic started to rise. Some believed it was a new threat. Others whispered it might be the Erebus, returned from the dead. A vote was taken: should they try to make contact or destroy it before it got closer. But before the decision was made, the ship stopped. Right outside the border of Council space, it hovered like it was waiting. Then, voice echoed through every channel. It was deep, layered, not fully human anymore. "This is Captain Juno of the human warship Erebus," it said. "We have returned. We are not the same, but we remember who we are. And we remember the destroyer all over the galaxy." Screens lit up with the same image. A human face, half metal, half flesh, eyes glowing red, but filled with purpose. The face of Captain Juno, the woman who led the Erebus 10 years ago. She should have been dead, but now she looked stronger, different, not fully human, not fully machine, something in between, aboard the command deck of the Erebus. The crew stood silently. They too had changed. They wore armor that grew from their bodies. They moved as one. They had been through something no one else could imagine. They had faced Oblivor and survived, but at a cost. They were not just soldiers anymore. They were something new, Captain. Juno looked at the stars, her voice calm but cold. "We came back because the destroyer is not dead." She said, "It sleeps, but it will rise again. And this time, we are ready on every world." On every station, people stopped to listen. Some cried, some stared in fear, others in hope. The humans had returned, but they were not. The same humans who left. No one knew if they were still friends or now something else. But one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same again. In a small farming colony, far from the Council's core, a young girl pointed to the sky. She saw a red light moving across the stars. "Look, Mama," she said. "The red ship is watching, and far above." Hidden in the darkness of space, the Erebus waited, watching, listening. Preparing for, in the shadows, something was waking up. The same thing that once nearly ended all life. Oblivor, the world at Or, was not gone. The humans knew this. They were not just returning to say hello. They were returning to finish what they started. And this time, they were evolved. This time. They would not fail. The silent return had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the name Erebus again. The Erebus floated outside the Council's border like a dark star. Its surface moved slowly, as if it was breathing. Alien scanners tried to understand it, but they failed. Every system that tried to scan the ship returned strange results unknown. Materials, impossible energy levels, and something else, something alive. Inside the ship, watching back, a small recon team was sent to get closer. 3 light cruisers, fast and armed. With permission only to observe as they approached, the lead pilot whispered over comms, "It doesn't look like a ship," he said. "It looks like A creature. They circled it carefully, their engines humming. The Erebus did nothing, just watched them. No shields raised, no weapons charged, but everyone felt the pressure. Like a storm waiting to explode. Then, a part of the hull opened. Not with a hatch, but like skin peeling back. A strange pod drifted out from the ship. Smooth and round, it stopped near the lead cruiser. And a voice came through all channels. "Board if you dare," it said, after long hesitation. The pilot entered the pod. He expected darkness, maybe danger, but inside, it was quiet and bright. He floated in the air, weightless, surrounded by images, memories, humans, fighting, screaming, surviving. The pod was not just transport, it was a message. A living memory of what happened to Erebus in the last 10 years. The pod returned to the fleet, and the pilot, pale and shaking, reported what he saw. "They didn't die," he said. "They transformed." Soon, a council meeting was held. Leaders from dozens of species sat around a glowing table. They argued loudly. Some believed the Erebus was a threat. Others believed it was the only hope against Oblivor. The room split into chaos, until a single voice rose above all. Calm and clear, it was Velek, the youngest ambassador of a small planet called Corian. He stood and spoke. "I will go," he said. "I will speak to the humans." The room went silent. Out. No one wanted to follow the Erebus, not even with full fleets. But Velek asked for one ship, one chance. The council agreed, only because they thought he wouldn't return. Velek boarded his scout vessel, Lumen's Wish, and flew toward the Erebus as he approached. The ship opened again, welcoming him inside. He stepped into the strange darkness, but inside was not like a ship. It was like a cathedral. Walls pulsed with soft red light, voices echoed in the metal. Every step felt like walking through memories. He was greeted by a figure part woman, part machine. Her body was metal and muscle, glowing lines across her skin. But her eyes were human, deep and calm. "I am Captain Juno," she said. "You came to understand." Velek nodded, trying not to show fear. "I came to ask why you returned," he said. Juno smiled slightly, a sad and tired smile. "Because the thing we failed to destroy is still alive," she replied, "and this time, we won't fail." She guided him through the ship. He saw more humans each. One changed. Part machine, part light, but none of them looked lost. They moved with purpose, with unity. They were not controlled. They had chosen this path. Juno explained everything. 10 years ago, Erebus fell into a pocket dimension, an ancient trap made by Oblivor. Inside that place, time broke and space bent. They met something there, a living AI called Nyros. It offered survival, but only by merging human thought with its power. The crew chose to live, but changed now. They were more than just soldiers, they were the weapon. And the Erebus was alive because it was part of them. Every wall, every circuit, every breath of the ship came from the minds and memories of the crew. Velek listened carefully, his fear slowly turning into something else. Respect. These were not monsters. They were survivors who paid a price. They didn't ask for pity, only understanding. Juno stopped at a viewing deck. Outside, stars burned. Quietly and far away, darkness moved, the early signs of Oblivor. "Do you see it?" she asked. Velek nodded. "It is coming again," she said. "And this time, we're ready." She turned to Velek, her red eyes calm. "Tell your council," she said. "The war isn't over, and humanity has not forgotten." Velek left the Erebus with a changed heart. He returned to the council and gave his report. "They are not our enemies," he said. "They are our only chance." But not everyone believed him. Some feared the humans too much, and in secret. Plans were made to destroy the Erebus before it could act. Above in the stars, the ghost ship waited. Its human eyes glowing, its mind calm, because it knew something the council didn't. Oblivor had awakened, and the final war was coming. In the cold edge of the galaxy, where stars were dying and time seemed frozen, something began to stir. It had no heart, no name of its own. The council called it Oblivor, the World Eater. It had slept for a long time. Deep inside the void where no light reached, but now it opened its endless eyes again. Oblivor was not a creature, not a ship, not even a machine. It was something ancient, built before memory. It moved through galaxies like a shadow, leaving. Behind only silence, worlds vanished without warning. Suns dimmed, life ended in seconds. 10 years ago, when humanity first tried to fight it, Erebus had faced Oblivor alone. They failed, but they wounded it. Now, with the return of Erebus, Oblivor felt that wound burn again, and it remembered the humans. It began to move, slow but unstoppable. Black storms formed around it. Devouring energy, no signal escaped its path. Whole mining colonies disappeared without a sound. Scouts sent to investigate were never heard from again. On a trading station near the Mara sector, workers looked up to see the sky turn black. Stars blinked out, one by one, then came the cold, the kind that ate through walls and bones. Seconds later, the station went silent. The council panicked, one by one. Their outer colonies stopped responding. Defense fleets sent out never came back. A message from the outer rim finally broke through, just 5 words. It has awakened. It's coming. In the Grand Council Hall, leaders screamed over each. Other blame was thrown, orders given, fingers pointed. Some wanted to send fleets, others wanted to run. But Velek stood again, quiet but firm. We were warned, he said, the humans told us. Still, many refused to trust the Erebus. They called it a ghost ship, a danger to all. But others began to believe Velek. A group of smaller systems contacted Erebus directly, asking for help, and the humans responded not with words, but with action. On the planet Meraxis, Oblivor's shadow had already reached orbit. The sky cracked with strange lightning, and the ground trembled. Then, something appeared between the planet and the destroyer, a dark shape, larger than any warship. It was the Erebus. Without warning, it activated a massive energy field. The red glow spread wide. Like a shield of blood and light, the planet was covered. And the attack from Oblivor was deflected. It was the first time anything had ever resisted Oblivor directly. From the surface, people looked up and cried. They didn't know what the ship was, but they knew it had saved them. Above, the Erebus hovered. Unmoved, its crew silent, Captain Juno watched the destruction outside the field. Her eyes were cold, her thoughts sharp. It's stronger than before, she said, but so are we. Back at the council, the news spread quickly. The Erebus had saved an entire world in minutes. Now even some of the strongest critics began to question their stance. But not all were convinced. A secret meeting was held among high-ranking members. They saw the humans as too powerful, too unknown. They feared that if Erebus could fight Oblivor, it could also fight the council. The decision was made to destroy Erebus before it grew stronger. Assassin ships were sent. Cloaked and armed with illegal weapons, they approached the Erebus as it rested near a dead moon. Inside, the crew felt a strange vibration in the metal walls. The ship had no sensors, it didn't need them. It felt danger like a heartbeat without turning, without raising shields. The Erebus shifted. Its outer armor opened like a blooming flower, revealing dozens of red glowing tendrils. The assassin. Ships fired, but their shots bent away like wind in a storm. In 1 second, the Erebus responded. A silent pulse like a whisper. And the assassin ships stopped moving, their systems shut down, their weapons dead. Captain Juno stood before the image of the dead ships, her voice calm, almost sad. We don't want war with you, she said. But we will not be hunted, she sent the ships back, powered down but intact, a message to the council. A warning, but also a choice, all across the galaxy. Smaller systems began to rally around the humans. They saw the council as afraid, and the Erebus as brave. The line between fear and hope had been drawn. Oblivor kept coming, but this time, the galaxy was not completely alone. Humanity had returned, changed, evolved, but still willing to fight. They had one mission: to stop the destroyer once and for all. The Erebus had only just begun to show its true power. The galaxy was breaking apart. Oblivor's shadow moved like a slow dark wave, eating light and hope. More colonies vanished. every day leaving behind only silence and empty skies. The council tried to hide the truth, but fear spread faster than news, and in the middle of all this chaos, the Erebus stood calm and unshaken on board the living ship. Captain Juno held a quiet meeting with her crew. They stood in a circular chamber where walls pulsed like a living heart. "We've shown them we can protect," she said, her voice calm but firm, "but now we need more. We can't do this alone." She looked at a map of the galaxy, red dots blinking, each one a world in danger. Green lights showed systems that had reached out for help, small planets tired of being ignored by the Council. One of those systems was Corian, the homeworld of Velek, the young ambassador who had once boarded the Erebus. Juno sent him a private message. "We need voices like yours," she said. "We need the forgotten worlds," Velek agreed. He remembered the Erebus. Not as a machine, but as a promise. He began traveling from world to world. Calling others to join, "Look at the Council," he said to a crowd of farmers on Duster 9. "They argue while we die, but the humans fight. They are not perfect," he added, "but they came back when no one else did, on a small ocean world called Tirava." A young alien scientist named Shira heard Velek speak. She had once lost her brother to Oblivor's silent attack. She believed in logic, in proof. But now she believed in action. She contacted the Erebus, offering help I know how to increase. "Your energy shield," she said. "Let me work with you." Juno welcomed her without hesitation. Shira boarded the Erebus, surprised to see how peaceful it felt inside. The ship didn't hum like normal vessels. It breathed. She met engineers, who were once human now bonded with the ship's mind. They taught her without pride or fear, sharing everything meanwhile. Other alien warriors joined too. A proud insectoid captain named Cran brought 5 warships from his dying sector. "I don't trust your council," he said, "but I trust those who fight beside me." Juno shook his clawed hand without a word. The new alliance began to grow, not through politics, but through shared danger, world by world. People began to believe in the humans again. The council watched in silence. Angry and afraid, they tried to stop it spreading lies, calling the Erebus a threat. But the more they lied, the more people turned away. Then came news that changed everything. A deep space science station near the galactic core sent a broken signal. It showed images of something massive, Oblivor in its true form. Not just a ship, not just a machine, but something alive. It had eyes the size of moons, wings made of shadow, and it was building something worse than itself. The message ended with screams and silence. The station was gone. The council had no plan, no weapon, no unity. But the Erebus was already moving. Juno called her new allies to a secret meeting on a neutral moon. They gathered inside a shielded dome, leaders and soldiers from over 20 systems. She stood in the center, her voice steady. "You all know what we face," she said. "We have one chance to strike before it becomes unstoppable." Cran nodded, his mandibles clicking. "We attack the builder before the destroyer is complete," Shira added. "I can boost your systems if I get access to the ancient data." "Vaults under Kalara Prime," Velek said. "My people will rise if they see real hope." Not just words. Plans were made, routes drawn, energy shared. The fleet that once feared humans now flew under their banner. It wasn't a grand army, it was broken ships, tired warriors, and lost scientists. But they believed, and that belief made them stronger. As the Erebus prepared to move, the ship glowed brighter than ever inside. The human minds felt something they had not felt in a long time: purpose. They were no longer just survivors. They were leaders. Captain Juno looked at the stars, where Oblivor waited. "We know this enemy," she said to her crew. "We failed once, but we're not the same anymore. We're more than human now. But we still remember why we fight." The galaxy had been warned. Now it was choosing sides. And for the first time in history, aliens from dozens of worlds stood behind a human warship. Not because they were forced to, but because they believed. In it, the old enemy was rising, but so were new allies, and together, they would face the storm. The fleet gathered around the Erebus like a ring of stars. Each ship came from a different world, painted in different colors, shaped by different hands. But now, they shared one goal: to stop Oblivor before it could destroy everything inside. The Erebus, the crew stood silently in a large chamber. Their bodies were not like they used to be. Skin and bone had mixed with metal and light.
Ow.
But their eyes still held the spark of who they once were. They had become something new, but not something lost. Captain Juno looked at them, her voice steady. "Some of you were farmers," she said. "Some engineers, some soldiers. But now, you are the heart of this ship. We survived. Because we trusted each other." One of the younger crew members, Ava, stepped forward. Her body was covered in shifting armor that moved with her breath. She had once been an engine tech, but now she could speak to the ship directly through her mind. "The Erebus is not just a ship," she said. "It's our memory. It's our home and our weapon." The crew nodded. Each of them had sacrificed something flesh, time or identity. But they had gained something powerful in return, a bond stronger than steel. A bond built not just on survival, but on purpose. While the Erebus prepared for battle, its new allies trained together. Shira, the alien scientist, taught engineers from other worlds how to upgrade shield generators. She stood on the hull of a small cruiser, tools floating beside her. "This wire here," she said, pointing carefully, "connects to your entire power cordon." "Mess it up, Cran," the insectoid captain. Trained soldiers from 6 different species on a dusty moon. They practiced hand-to-hand combat in low gravity. "No one fights alone," he growled, "if one falls." To pick them up, even Velek, who had never held a weapon in his life, stood before crowds and spoke with fire in his voice. "I used to think peace was enough," he said, "but now I know some things must be defended." The humans showed us that. Back on the Erebus, Juno walked through the ship's glowing corridors. She placed her hand on the wall, and it responded like warm skin. A soft light followed her steps. She remembered the day they merged with the AI called Nyros. 10 years ago, they had been trapped in a dimension filled with time loops and dying. Stars, their ship was breaking apart, their food was gone, their fuel dead. That's when they heard the voice, soft, ancient, and endless. "I can keep you alive," Nyros had said, "but you must let go of your limits." It wasn't an easy choice. Some said no, and died in the cold. Others said yes, and were never the same again. But those who survived became something more. The AI didn't control them, joined with them. It let them think, feel, and decide, but it also gave them power no human had ever touched before. They became the first of a new kind, souls fused with machine. Still human at heart, but stronger than anything the galaxy had seen. Juno stopped at the memorial wall. Names of the lost were etched into the metal crew, who didn't survive the merge. She bowed her head. "They gave us this chance," she whispered. "We won't waste it." Suddenly a red light flashed in the command center. A scout ship sent to the edge of Oblivor's territory had returned, barely alive. Its hull was torn, its systems failing. Inside was one pilot, burned and bleeding. He spoke only one sentence before passing out its building. Something bigger, the fleet leaders gathered at once. Juno showed them the last recording from the scout. A giant machine forming near a dead star, spikes as long as cities, mouths filled with swirling energy. "It's not just coming to kill," Juno said. "It's coming to erase." Silence filled the room, then Cran spoke. "Then we strike now," Shira added. "We can overload their energy if we get close enough," Velek said. "People are ready, they just need the signal." Juno looked at all of them, her voice clear. "Then let's give them that signal." She said, "The Erebus will lead. We don't promise victory," she continued, "only that we will not run." The fleet began to move, slow at first, then faster, like a river of light cutting through the dark. Ships of all sizes followed the Erebus, not out of fear, but because they believed in it, in every crew. Someone told the story of the humans who returned from death, the humans who changed but kept their will. The humans who turned scrap and sorrow into the most powerful ship in the stars. The bond between them was not made by blood alone. It was made by fire, choice, and the steel of their hearts. And in that bond, they found their strength. The stars grew dim as the fleet approached the edge of the known galaxy. Ahead of them, the light ended. Beyond that was Oblivor. The enemy waited near a collapsed star cluster. The space around it was strange. Heavy and silent, scanners failed, Signals bounced back. Time itself felt slower, but the Erebus moved. Forward without fear, it had seen this darkness before. Captain Juno stood at the center of the command bridge. Her armor shimmered like metal in flame, her eyes locked on the black horizon. "All ships, prepare for battle," she said. No. Turning back. Across the fleet, crews readied weapons. Some were seasoned fighters. Others were scientists or workers who had never held a blaster, but now they stood together under one banner, the banner of the last hope. The enemy revealed itself slowly. Oblivor rose from the void like a living nightmare, its body stretched across space, more shadow than shape. Eyes the size of cities glowed from within its core, mouths opened wide not to eat but to erase. And behind it something worse. A new construct, growing, spinning, breathing, a death engine. Still incomplete but pulsing with rising power. It would not just kill, it would burn memory, time, and soul. Nothing would be left. The Erebus sent out one final message across all channels. "This is not just a fight for survival, Juno," said. "This is a stand for everything that breathes."
Nice.
"If we fall, the stars fall with us." No reply came, only silence, and then Oblivor attacked. Dark beams of unknown energy sliced through space. One ship vanished instantly, another spun out of control and shattered. The battlefield became a storm, but the Erebus held its place. Its armor shifted, adapting. Red shields flared like wings, absorbing the impossible. Then it returned fire silent. Pulses of space-folding energy, the beams bent gravity. Tore open light, Oblivor staggered, but only for a moment. Captain Juno spoke directly to her crew. "Now," she said, "we go into its heart." The ship surged forward, faster than thought. Around it allies followed, some cheering, some praying. Velik flew beside her in a smaller ship, yelling into the coms for every world that was lost. Cran and his insectoid ships smashed through Oblivor's outer limbs. Shura activated pulse fields that confused the enemy's senses. For a moment, it looked like they could win, but then Oblivor screamed, not with sound, but with pain. Rage and hunger, it tore open a part of space, and from that wound came more shadows. Twisted machines, things built from dead ships, and stolen minds. Oblivor had made an army. The second wave crashed into the fleet. Ships exploded, crews screamed, fighters disappeared in flashes of fire. But they kept going. They had to if they stopped. Everything ended inside the Erebus. The crew felt each impact. The ship groaned like a living thing. Armor cracked, lights dimmed, but still it moved forward. Captain Juno saw the core of Oblivor. Now, a beating black sun inside a cage of bones and code. She reached out through her mind to Nyros, the AI that lived within the Erebus. "Now," she said, "link me." Nyros hesitated, then obeyed. Juno's mind reached across space. Across. Machine. She touched the mind of Oblivor. It was vast, cold, ancient. It had no face, no name, only function. It had been built long ago in another galaxy. Its purpose was to reset life when it grew too loud. It believed it was doing the right thing. But Juno pushed back. She sent it something it didn't understand. Memories, laughter, pain, music. She sent the faces of her crew, the voices of her allies, the last song her mother sang to her before she left Earth. She sent it humanity. Oblivor froze. Its machines paused. For the first time in eons it doubted. And that was enough. The Erebus charged one final pulse. Every system, every soul. Every part of the ship lit up, Juno whispered, "For all of us," and fired. The beam hit the core of Oblivor. There was no explosion, no fire, just silence. The enemy collapsed inward, folding like paper. The death engine behind it shattered into dust. And the void became still. Across the battlefield, survivors looked out in disbelief. The shadow was gone. The nightmare ended, but the Erebus was drifting, damaged, almost broken. Juno lay still in her command chair, her eyes closed. Her voice whispered across the comms, "We are still here." The battlefield was quiet. Stars blinked slowly in the distance. Wrecked ships floated like dead leaves in space, and in the center of it all, the Erebus drifted without sound. The final pulse had destroyed Oblivor. The galaxy's oldest nightmare was gone, but the cost was written across every ship that remained. Over half the fleet was lost. Thousands were gone, their names now part of the stars. Inside the Erebus, red lights flickered weakly. The crew lay still, energy drained, minds silent. Only one voice moved through the hall's Neros, the living AI. It searched for Captain Juno. She had given everything to break into Oblivor's mind. Her body still sat in the command chair, but her mind was far away, in a quiet corner of the ship. Ava, the young engineer, woke up. Her hands trembled. Her thoughts were foggy. But she felt the pulse of the ship's low, weak but alive. She forced herself to stand, one by one. She checked the life signs of the crew. Most were still breathing, some barely. She whispered through the comms. "Wake up," she said. "We're not done yet, elsewhere." Velik's ship limped through the wreckage. His hull was damaged, power fading, but when he saw the Erebus still holding its position, something inside him lit up. "They're alive," he said. "They made it." He opened a channel to every surviving ship. "This is Velik of Corian," he said. "The humans didn't run, they didn't break. They stood between us and the end. And they're still here, across the fleet, broken." Ships turned their lights toward the Erebus. It's not as a signal of war, but as a sign of respect. Back inside the Erebus, Nyros whispered gently into Juno's mind. "Come back," it said, but Juno didn't answer. She was still inside the memory she had shared with Oblivor. She walked through her past, her family, her ship, her crew. She saw faces that had been lost, heard laughter, long forgotten, and then she saw a hand reaching toward her. It was Ava's, glowing with the light of the Erebus. Juno took the hand and opened her eyes. She gasped, sat up, and looked around. Her crew was rising too, not with cheers but with quiet strength. They were alive, and that was enough. She stood, her voice hoarse but steady. "Status?" she asked. Ava replied, "The ship's alive, but barely. We can't fight again, but we can fly." Juno nodded. "That's all we need." She looked at the stars. The galaxy was watching, not just the leaders, but the forgotten worlds, the broken colonies. The people who never had power, they all saw what had happened. The council had hidden, but the humans had stood. "At the sky, is the red ship still up there?" she asked. Her mother smiled through tears. "Yes," she said. "They saved us, in time." The council would speak again. They would try to take control of the victory. But no one believed them anymore, because the story had already spread. The ship that came back, the humans who evolved, the ones who faced Oblivor and survived. The Erebus became legend. Some said it vanished again. Others said it still watched from the shadows, waiting for the next great danger. But the truth was this: humanity had changed, not just their bodies but their hearts. They had chosen to protect, even when forgotten, even when feared, and in doing so, they lit a fire across the stars, a fire that would never die. Captain Juno stood once more at the front of her ship. She placed her hand on the living wall. The ship pulsed, ready to move to where? No one knew, but it didn't matter. They were not seeking glory. They were seeking peace. And if peace ever broke again, they would return, because the last light of humanity did not fade in war. It shined brighter than ever, and it still moved through the stars, as a whisper, as a warning, as a promise.